What do you got for Nacho? Hit the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line 64686. Hit the talkback line. Should have mentioned it earlier in the show. I know it was very popular yesterday on Vikings Wine Line, and I'm assuming it was earlier today as well on all the regular programs. Leber is brought to you by the Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. He joins us now via the Connecticut Water Systems Hotline. They tell me, Nacho, you are back at Mystic Lake tonight between 7 and 8 o'clock. Now, are you doing sleight of hand? Are you doing magic tricks? Are you doing stand-up comedy? What is it going to be tonight?
It's funny because lately on my Instagram algorithm, for whatever reason, they think that I'm into magic, which I find it fascinating.
Interesting.
So all these like tutorials on how to do sleight of hand are kind of popping up. It is very fascinating how I have never thought about how they do these tricks. And then then they pull the curtain back and you're like, well, that's easy. Like, how did I not figure that out before?
So you got a hankering? Maybe, I mean, you got a lot of stuff. You're a Renaissance man as it is. TV show, radio, sideline reporter, all the stuff you do with Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. But, I mean, there might be room for something new.
No, so the other thing about me is my brothers called me Thunder Touch because I broke everything that I touched. So I don't have the dexterity in my fingers to do all the sleight of hand stuff. So I could be more like Gallagher. I could not be, a card magician. So,
how about something like, what about this? What about the old, like they lock you in a steamer trunk and then they throw a steamer trunk into a pool of water and you have to get out before you die.
You just want to kill me for some reason.
I don't know, yes.
There's no way I'm getting out of that.
Oh, all right. I thought you had pretty quick first step, no?
Yeah, not anymore. Not when you're 46. Listen, thanks for bringing up Mystic Lake. It was kind of a bonus unrestricted show. We were done during the regular season, and then we're like, let's do like sort of a playoff edition. So we have another one tonight, Harrison Phillips, who everybody should know and love already. Awesome conversationalist. I mean, every time he does an interview, he's good. He's just great. So I'm excited for that. That's 7 to 8 p.m. tonight at Drinks Bar.
All right. So you may be asking Harrison the same question tonight, if you haven't already, in your conversations with him. What happened last night in Detroit?
Yeah, I mean, that'll be one of the topics we talk about. And obviously, it'll be very, probably very company answer as far as just talk about the defense.
Sure.
Who's not going to get involved with the offense. But, yeah, I mean, offensively, I think it's pretty apparent. Sam Darnold had the worst game of the season on the most important game that we're all looking forward to. And, I couldn't tell you that, all the hows and whys and why he was out of sync. It does seem like, and this is kind of coming from TJ Hawkinson when I talked to him in the locker room after the game, is like they threw some other coverages in the red zone that they weren't really, really ready for, and they had a little bit of confusion. And when you kind of break it down, it does make sense as to why, at least in the red zone, there were some hiccups.
Mm-hmm.
Play a lot of, try to like simplify this here. So they play a lot of single high coverage, like man coverage. And so single high just basically means you've got one single safety that's, high in the post, in the center field area. And then everybody's playing some version of man-to-man with, a helper, usually a linebacker or another safety in the middle of the field to kind of help out, be the extra guy helping out. Well, you can run that same look and run a zone, and we just call that cover 3. And when you get down in that compressed area, when things are happening fast, if you like run that slant route that everybody's talking about, like, how did he not throw that ball to Addison? It was there. You can see his eyes were actually looking at him. But now when you marry that up with what Hawkinson was saying, it's like, yeah, that is the perfect man coverage beater. But if they thought for some reason they were running a zone, well, that slant's going to be run right into one of the linebackers and one of the slot defenders. So I can see why if they were a little confused, yes, it looks like he's wide open, but he's also looking and second guessing himself, thinking, if this is 3 deep, then I'm going to throw a pick in the end zone to some defender that's just squatting and sitting there right for the slant. So I guess some of that makes sense.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation, and because I think outwardly you go, oh, God, he's right there, he's looking right at him. You got to get it there, but that might, explain at least part of the hesitation. You might well be right. I much earlier in the show, I quoted a comment from Dan Campbell that I thought really distilled this game down to its essence in terms of the Lions' approach. And to a large extent, I think it was meant as a compliment to Darnold and this offense. And he basically said, look, when he gets the play action pass and they nudge the edges or they'll max protect on some of this stuff, 2 receiver routes, 3 receiver routes, and he can see it and he has time, he's deadly. And we could not allow that to happen. We didn't feel like there was any way we could let him sit back there because we did think he would pick us apart. To me, that's what great coaching is saying we know what our limitations are. We could sit back out of caution, but then we are definitely going to be picked apart. I'd rather take the risk that occasionally we're going to get burned by going to the approach they did, which was obviously like an unprecedented percentages of zero blitz packages and going after the QB. And to me, that was kind of to a large extent, above and beyond Darnold's inaccuracy, I thought that was kind of the story of the game.
Well, it's interesting too, though, because we took an early sack, and maybe that was a tone setter a little bit, but it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't. I mean, these guys have played a lot of football, and if that one sack early in the game was going to like all of a sudden throw off the whole game plan, at least mentally, then I guess they just weren't maybe mentally prepared. But I got to be honest. I mean, we did a pretty good job of blocking a lot of their stuff up, and Sam actually had time. And I think if he would have made some of those connections in the first quarter and going into the second quarter, they would have to defensively change their approach because, the sideline route to Hawkinson, listen, probably should have been caught. It was a good route. It was a good read. The ball was thrown on time. Maybe I guess slightly early coming out of the break, but that's what you want in tight coverage is to anticipate these guys coming out of their breaks and you put the ball right on them. I thought that was one that I'm sure Hawkinson was like, yeah, I got to come down with that. And then you got the other one down the middle of the field where he sails that one. Now that one was more on Sam, but those are just 2 examples where if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm like, ooh, dang, man. Like, I got to be careful about calling that play again or calling that version of blitz because they burned us on it the last time. So if we connect on those things, then we're talking a different ballgame. We're talking a different philosophical approach. You're saying that the Lions now have to change what they're doing defensively, and hopefully we can capitalize on that too. Yeah, that's a fair point as well. Ben Leber, brought to you by Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. Is there such a thing as a hop splash player of the game for this game? Yeah, there is, and you heard Pete Bursich talk about this the whole time. You talked about like the big matchup going into the game was Decker on Jonathan Grenard, and it lived up to what we thought, at least in our favor. I thought Grenard played an outstanding football game once again. His presence was known early and often, and he made a couple splashy plays, but just overall, I mean, watching his body of work, he's just one of those guys that I urge all the Vikings fans out there, even in this next game on Monday night, just for a couple series, just watch him go to work. I mean, he does some amazing things that, again, don't show up in the stat books, but I thought he had a really solid game. I think that's as good a call as any. If you have questions for Ben Leber, Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is open, and that number is, of course, as always, 64686. In general, where were you on whether we should have run the ball more, especially in the red zone? Was that an overrated issue? Did we try to throw too much? What do you think? I suppose in hindsight, at one point in time we had seven goal to go situations and we threw the ball 7 times. Now, it didn't work out. And in hindsight, it's like, we probably should have ran the ball a little bit, especially if there really was some coverage confusion about what was going on. Well, then, let's take the coverage out of it. As far as I know, whether they're playing man or they're playing, cover 3, it's not going to affect the run scheme as much as is the pass game. So maybe we should have taken those opportunities and tried to get Aaron Jones going downhill because, we saw early on in the game that we could gash these guys. We could find some spots. Our backs are good enough to break a couple tackles and use their vision to kind of get skinny. So, I think had we do it all over again, and let's hope that we win this game on Monday and we face the Lions again. I think if we got in those situations, we're going to run the football a little bit more.
It's hard to argue, I think, for 3 quarters with the job that the defense did, right? I mean, it looked to me like eventually you're playing the Lions, and so there's a good chance they're going to get some stuff going. But it's hard for me to hold that much against them, given how well they played for the better part of 3 quarters, the positions they put the offense in to do something with the opportunities that they obviously did not take full advantage of. What did you think of the defensive performance for much of the way?
Yeah, for most of the game, I mean, 2.5 to 3 full quarters. I know they gave up a long drive there in the middle of the third, but this is, as everybody talked about, it's the number 1 offense in the league. I mean, did you really expect to shut them out completely? I didn't think so. And so for that being said, I thought for 3 quarters, they were the stars. I mean, they were physical. I thought they won the line of scrimmage. I thought we competed across the board. Clearly, they made a couple chunk plays here and there, but, they weren't putting the ball in the end zone, and you could tell that they were getting frustrated. So to frustrate and kind of shut down that high-powered offense, I thought the defense was fantastic.
Yeah, it definitely, again, as you know, sooner or later, the Lions are going to probably make you pay. But I thought they did all you could hope for, and it seemed to change the calculus of the game a little bit if you could do something with it offensively, which obviously the Vikings unfortunately could not. So where do you rank Gibbs as a weapon at this point in the National Football League?
Man, I mean, he's up there. I mean, I would put him up in that McCaffrey, a healthy McCaffrey zone. I think that he is a phenomenal runner. Every defender that I've talked to that has played against him has said that he has exceptional and shocking speed. The way that he can knife through the line of scrimmage and get up to the second and third level in the blink of an eye and make full speed cuts and then be a guy that can catch the ball in the backfield and then he's just deadly in open space. I mean, the guy, he's got it. He's got the it factor. I just think he is truly one of those special players. And I remember talking to Frank Ragnow after the very first game that we played. And, even Frank was like, you should see what this guy does in practice. I mean, he's like, he makes like surprise plays all the time. Like they couldn't be, more excited about the future with him.
And rightly so. I mean, he is an unbelievable weapon. So we talked about this last week. So much build up to this game. And I felt all along, this is a game you could win or you could lose. And I didn't think it was going to be the end of the world if you lost it, because my assumption, like a lot of people, was it was going to be pretty close. So that it ends up being not all that close and becomes at times feeling a little bit cataclysmic. Do you believe it makes it harder or easier to get past it and prepare for the next round against the Rams, or the first round against the Rams?
Unfortunately, I think it makes it a little harder. If you go out there and you can put the ball in the end zone, we don't go, 0 for 4 in the red zone and 0 for 2 on fourth down in the red zone. And we actually put the ball in the end zone and we can feel pretty confident about ourselves. Like, all right, we figured these guys out. We knew that they're going to make some plays. We were going to make some plays. It's kind of like, quality handshake at midfield and be like, yeah, good game. We'll, hope to see you later. The way it turned out was, defensively, they absolutely shut down our high-powered offense. And so for that, you go back licking your wounds a little bit, and you're thinking, what just happened? I mean, I know I was probably like a lot of Vikings fans, like I left the stadium a little shell-shocked. I did not expect that outcome. I really, truly thought we were going to win the game. And so when you leave a game like that, which is physical, it's mentally draining, and you leave it shell-shocked and questioning and thinking a little bit maybe like, what just happened, versus kind of proud of your performance and the fact that you went toe-to-toe with one of the best, I think it's a different mentality. And I think that's going to be a little harder to shake off during the course of the week than if the game was, like I mentioned, kind of a toe-to-toe battle. What
do they do? What does the head coach do to get Darnold past this, to shake this off as much as possible individually? I mean, because they talked after the game about, footwork and fundamentals, and that always sounds good. Maybe that's what a lot of what it was. I don't know. It looked to me like he was just hyped and everything was wild high. And I wonder, it's the old question. Is it the old, well, he's never been in this situation before, with as much at stake as there now is, and maybe it got to him a little bit. So what's the best approach with Darnold?
Well, I think, with everything, it comes down to just the why, the why part of it, the education part of it. And if it's emotions, then I think that it's going to be fine. Like this next weekend, it's not like the environment's going to be any more crazy and the stakes aren't going to be any more higher. I mean, it was a playoff game yesterday. It was as loud as I've ever heard any stadium this whole season. And we all understood the gravity and the weight of the situation. So it's like, all right, we've kind of been there, done that. You've kind of, you've gotten that bad juju out of the way. You educate on the coverages and the things that were confusing. And when they want to talk about mechanics, well, it's your emotions and your brain is what's driving your feet and your eyes. And so, fix the mental part of it when it comes to why did you feel like you were rushed? Why were you a little confused on the coverage? If you fix those things, I don't have any problem I don't have any worry that he's going to come out firing the ball like he's been firing it all season long. He's shown this resiliency to bounce back from mistakes and from a little bit of poor play within the game to come back on a next series or next half and have a great game. So I expect the same thing on Monday night.
Ben Leber, of course, our guest, brought to you by the Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. Don't forget, he will be at Mystic Lake tonight, but with Harrison Phillips between 7 and 8 o'clock as well, if you want to stop by there and get some good discussion, fun, and football analysis as well. Do you view, I actually viewed, before the Vikings-Packers game, I thought the Packers were going to beat the Vikings. Not because I think the Vikings were awful, but I just had a hunch they would rebound for the game that they lost in Green Bay. And I was not impressed with Green Bay at all. And then they lose to the Bears. That's not as big a deal, but they get another injury. And because I know there's some people are saying, you know what, they can go to Philly and they're going to play loose and they could be a dangerous team. I don't know if I see that the Packers as a dangerous team. How do you view the NFC playoffs now? Any differently than you did a week ago? How would you handicap this thing right now? Is it completely wide open? Is it Detroit's to lose? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I'm actually really curious what the Lions defense looks like with a really truly run first offense in Philadelphia. And I have to give Aaron Glenn and that whole staff in Detroit a lot of credit. I mean, dealing with a defense that's been decimated, but yet you still trust these guys that are out there running, in your face, man coverage at the line of scrimmage, throughout the whole game, throwing a whole bunch of blitzes at you with basically guys that aren't starters. And, some of these guys weren't even on the team, a month and a half ago. So, now that's in the passing game. If we're not an offense that's going to ground and pound you, but the Eagles are, and so it is about matchups. Sometimes it's not necessarily just like who's the most talented. It's like you got to marry that up with what you do really well. And so I'd really like to see that matchup of those guys having to go against a run first offense in Philadelphia. But the totality of the NFC, it hasn't really changed much. I know that the Rams are going to be a tough out. We all know that the weapons that they have not played great ball lately, kind of eking out some wins. They haven't looked real consistent, have not looked very high-powered, but that defense is awfully good, and they got a lot of young talent up there. Packers, I'm with you. I think that they're really, truly, literally and figuratively limping into the playoffs, and I get this feeling that they're not a very confident team right now.
I'm with you 100% on that. How do you view the AFC? Do you view it as still Kansas? I mean, Kansas City's weird. We know they haven't been dominant, but they still got Mahomes, and they still have home ice throughout. Or do you view Buffalo as the team to beat in the AFC?
Yeah, I've got Buffalo and I've got Baltimore as far as the AFC goes. I'm kind of with everybody else. I'm not impressed with Kansas City. I know winning matters, and winning at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. And they find ways to win. And, you got to give them an A+ when it comes to that intangible category. But when it comes to just winning championship level football, teams that have the ability to run the ball, to win the line of scrimmage, to play great defense. I just feel like Buffalo and Baltimore do a better job of that.
I tend to agree with you on that. I do think this should be, I want to say fun. It's hard to say that because of what took place yesterday. But again, the Vikings, I assume you agree, are a better team than the Rams, right? I think the Rams have their danger points with this club. We saw that the first time around. But I'll go back to maybe you're not as good as the Lions, or maybe they are going to be the best team. But the fact of the matter is, if you're as good as you think you are and as you've largely played, you still should go to Los Angeles and win, correct?
Yeah, I think so. I absolutely think that we are the better team, and even though we lost a tough one yesterday, I think that we have more momentum going into this game than the Rams do.
And what makes you think that?
I think just the quality of play, to close out the season. And I know that the Rams sat a bulk of their starters and all that stuff, and then collectively they didn't look good in their last regular season game. But you look at the games preceding that, and they didn't really do much. Yes, defensively some of their guys played and they showed out, but their identity is their offense, and they want to have this offensive identification, and it's just not there. I don't see a team that's super confident in their passing game. Kyron, the running back, is really good, but I don't think they're going to lean on him the entire game. So again, I feel like they're still searching for kind of who they are, and they're waiting for their guys to be more consistent going into the playoffs. Jefferson,
did you have much of a chance to talk to JJ after the game? How did he process everything?
I did not. He, like everybody else, looked pretty disappointed and sitting in his locker. So I did not talk to him.
All right. Well, you'll obviously be going to L.A. Are you at all concerned? I guess there's already a report that a couple of our coaches are going to perhaps, I guess teams are asking to interview both our quarterbacks coach. I think was it the Jets on both of them, Guardsy? And I think also a Beeflo. I assume no surprise there. What do you think?
No surprise there. I know Beeflo for sure is going to get, people are sniffing around. And then, when you're completely attached to the quarterback, I can understand why Josh McCown, obviously he's got a reputation already as a player and an already good football mind. I feel like he should get as much credit for Darnold's success as KOC. And so it's not shocking that he's going to get some interview requests. I doubt that somebody like the Jets would hire him, but you never know. It's going to be a good experience for him. And I think the way I understand it, a lot of these preliminary interviews can be done over Zoom, and so it's not going to take a lot off their plate.
Have fun at Mystic Lake tonight. We will chat next week at some point, hopefully to keep this thing going after a victory. It would be quite a resounding thud, man, if it ended that quickly, right? With back-to-back losses this way.
Yeah, man. It would be. I know a lot of people out there be like, "Well, this is just the Vikings way, and this is how they operate sometimes." But I don't think that's going to be the case. And then, I'm not, going to do all the math here, but we will be able to probably talk before the game next Monday, right?
That's true, actually. Yeah, we'll probably, exactly it. We'll probably preview it. That's probably the best way to look at it for sure from Los Angeles.
Yeah, with the 2-hour time change, it'll be a little earlier out there for me. So,
even better.
Yeah, let me know if you want me to be on next Monday.
Thanks, man. We'll talk then.
All right, thanks.
Nacho Libre, Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. Don't forget, we expect at the bottom of the hour, Cam Bynum to join us as well. We'll get his view of what took place yesterday and what we might expect against the Rams. Many more talking points to get to as well. Stay tuned.
And now, famous moments in a
kick-ass
red zone
offense.
Second and goal from the 7 for the Vikings, trailing 7-0. Second time they've been inside the 10. They got shut down last possession. Brandon Powell in motion to the right. Darnold under center. Play action off Aaron Jones. Bounces around in the pocket. Throws to the end zone. Incomplete. Jefferson was wide open. The pass was good. JJ bobbled it. Came down out of bounds. You gotta have that.
Join us again for another famous moment in a
Kick-ass
red zone
offense.
Come hang out with the Power Trips Max Fuller on Tuesday the 7th. Rack's Bar in Burnsville for a Wolves watch party tomorrow night. Get there at 7 to watch your Wolves in action. Sign up for your chance to qualify for first-round playoff tickets next year. Full details, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Apparently, did you know that the 2025 home and away matchups are already set for your Minnesota Vikings?
I did see that today. I didn't do the deep dive, but I saw that was announced.
I mean, I know that's not front and center for all the obvious reasons, but it's out there, so it will be worth mentioning. We will play the AFC North and the NFC East. And as runner-up in the NFC North, we'll face the second-place teams in the AFC West, NFC West, and NFC South, if that makes any sense to you. We will host Baltimore, Cincinnati, Philadelphia, Washington, and Atlanta. We will play Cleveland, Dallas, the Giants, the Steelers, the Chargers, and the Seahawks on the road.
Back to Seattle,
Back to
course.
Seattle.
We always do it. It's unbelievable.
Have we ever hosted Seattle?
We have, in a playoff game, Blair Walsh missed a 27-yard field goal. I think we've gotten them one time here in the regular season in the last decade. L.A., though, everyone loves going to L.A. Your guy Harbaugh.
Yeah, that's true.
As long as he's still there.
Yeah. And it won't be Cousins. It'll be Penix.
Yeah.
When Atlanta comes here this time, right? It'll be Michael Penix will be the starter, one would assume. And Cousins will be... Did I see somebody indicating they might be sniffing around him? What team was it that was considering sniffing around...
One of the New York teams?
Kirk Cousins. Was it one of the New York teams? I wonder who it would have been.
Was it Pittsburgh? They kind of don't have a quarterback for next year.
No, they don't. That's very true.
Perhaps.
So we expect Bynum at 5:30?
Yes.
So probably break about 25 to be safe?
Yeah.
Would that be a good way to do it? Let's get to another talking point, what we like to call the battle of the defensive coordinators on Sunday Night Football.
Jared Goff out of the shotgun. They run again. Hand off Jahmyr Gibbs. And look at Jonathan Bernard. Blew him up back at the 35. Brian Flores' defense came to play and came to do its part to get a 1 seed, and the Lions are punting. Goff goes back to pass. Straight drop. Encounter. Sacked. Down goes Jared Goff. Jonathan Grenard came to win a division. Jonathan Grenard came to get a 1 seed. That's his first sack, second tackle for loss. It's a loss of 11, and the Lions ain't going for this 4th down. It's 4th and 31. 7th first down for the Lions. They lead the NFL most first downs per game at 24. Play action for Goff on first down from under center. Very deep drop. Intercepted! It got picked off as he threw it to the right, and it's intercepted by Ivan Pace Jr., and he's taken down at the 6-yard line. Ivan Pace Jr. with a scoop and score week 7. He just picked off Jared Goff, and he's trying to own the D. 4th and very short. Jared Goff, who likes to sneak. He's under center. Takes the snap. He's going to throw on 4th down. Back to pass. Throws over the middle. Incomplete. Ball might have been batted at the line of scrimmage by Jonathan Bullard because it came up way short. And the Vikings have turned over the Lions on down.
That was an example to me of another great defensive play, right? Because that's the Lions. They go for it on 4th down. And by the way, the receiver's wide open.
Yeah, he is.
And the ball gets tipped. And that's still at the point in the game where you're going, man, you're giving them more than they're accustomed to, especially at home. You're making it really hard on an offense that's the best offense in football. And that's what made it, I think, so frustrating. The B-flow plan, I think, was good until, again, eventually we broke. But it would be almost expected that eventually that's going to happen for Detroit at home. But their coordinator, as we said, there was a lot of talk about the Lions' offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, and B-Flow, that battle. And that's legit. Aaron Glenn should not be forgotten here because he clearly, as we talked about with the head coach, went with a plan that was high risk, high reward, but that ultimately they felt very comfortable with, which was, if we sit back, we think we will lose. And I don't know how much of it had to do with what happened to them in San Francisco, but the Niners moved at will.
They scored 5 touchdowns in 5 red zone trips.
That's it.
Or scored 5 times, whatever it was.
And eventually, the Lions being as good as they are offensively, they just were able to win the shootout. And they was it 40-34, I think was the final. And maybe that was the last straw for them. They said, well, Darnold has played better than Purdy has this year. They've got really good receivers. 49ers are kind of on their last fumes, so we can't kid ourselves here. We're going to be all in on putting as much pressure as we can. So B-Flow has rightly gotten a lot of attention this year, and certainly Ben Johnson has earned the flowers that he has gotten. The guy who's kind of, I think, worth discussing that we're kind of leaving out is Aaron Glenn, right? And in conjunction, one would assume with his head coach, what they chose to do, because even if Darnold, it played into their hands that Darnold wasn't very accurate, absolutely. But part of the way you do that is you do speed up a quarterback who is used to deep drops and used to having all kinds of time. And sometimes he still did have a decent amount of time. And that's exactly what I think Glenn did a very good job of. And I'm not trying to promote him to head coach. I don't even know if he's a good head coach, because it's a very different job than, being a head coach and an assistant. Even a coordinator, as we know, because then you're in charge of the team and you have to handle all the tough questions, etc. But I think that may have been the thing we neglected going into the game was, well, what about this Glenn guy? What do you think he has in mind for us? Because you've seen a lot of the analytics. It's basically not ever happened in the last 30 years that a team's gone into the red zone, especially like with first and goal. So that means presumably inside the 10 every time and even closer, and not come away with anything, correct?
Yeah, I want to give him credit, but I also look at part of the reason why they've played a certain way the last 2 months is because their defense has not been very good.
That's true.
So I give him credit for basically going, we're really bad. We have to do something completely dramatic and change it up completely. But that takes me back to how did the Vikings never make them pay for that ever throughout the game? How did they not realize what was happening ever? And again, they did at the beginning, and Darnold was dreadful. And you can't necessarily anticipate that. But as the game was going on, there's got to be ways to make a defense that is blitzing, 59% of the time, 60% of the time, whatever the number was?
Yeah.
There's got to be ways to mitigate that damage and make it easier on your quarterback, on your linemen, on your receivers, the whole bit, and they just never did it last night.
No, it's very, very true. And again, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's something you can only do once. I mean, again, if there's a rematch, maybe there's no way that the Lions can think they can be as effective with it next time. Now, maybe they're also going to be a little bit healthier there defensively. They did get, who was it, Anzalone? Didn't they get him back?
Yeah.
And he was helpful.
I was sick of hearing about him by the end of the night.
But he's a good player, and it, given how many people they have lost, and, we've heard the numbers, it's in the teens, then certainly you'd have to factor in that any little bit of help they could get, including a guy who's supposed to be one of the brains of the operations, right? He seems to know who's supposed to go where and why, that sort of thing.
Yep.
Made a big part of it as well. Let's pause. We do expect a phone call 5:30-ish or so from Cam Bynum and the Vikings. We'll get his reaction and what he thinks this club needs to do to recover from last night's loss. Obviously not the easiest day to be a Vikings fan, despite the fact that the team, of course, is still very much in the playoffs in the wake of the 31-9 loss last night. We'll catch up in just a couple minutes with Cam Bynum to see what it's like to be a player today on the day after. He, of course, has joined us all season, and we'll get to him in just a minute. In fact, I think we do now have him on hold via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. I was mentioning, Cam, for fans, obviously, it's a tough day, and it's weird because, as we talked about last week, you're in this unusual position where it's not a playoff game. You're in whether you win or not. Your record is tremendous whether you win or not, but it gets built up, right? And so when it doesn't go the local team's way and it ends up being a semi-rout at 31-9, I think then it's harder for people, the average fan, to sort of process it well. How about for a player? Where are you in that regard, given how much I think you were looking forward to the game? I know the team was looking forward to the game. and that you not only lose, but you lose the way you did.
Yeah, obviously just being a player and being somebody that's competing in that moment, in that big-time game, knowing that we didn't go out there and perform the way we wanted to and the way we should have, or the way we prepared to perform. It's tough just knowing that we didn't play up to our best ability, but knowing that the playoffs is here now, we really have to do a good job of really sweeping that and not worrying about, okay, the loss and the emotions from that loss, but really now we have to literally take it one game at a time, because like we all know, playoffs is one win or one loss and you're out, or you're moving on. So it was a good thing that we got to feel that atmosphere and feel it was basically, in our mind, it was a playoff game yesterday, because that game was worth 2 games. You win that game, you get to advance to the second round of the playoffs. So that was really a playoff game in our mind. So we were able to feel it and feel the lack of success we had. So now we can go back and really understand, okay, we need to fix things. So we're looking at it as a blessing in disguise more than we are hanging our heads and being emotional about it. And obviously we want to fix the mistakes. We're going to fix the mistakes. But the whole message in the locker room right now is, okay, accept that we lost and didn't do our job, but also know that we have to move on to LA, and we can only think about LA right now.
You know, I know you're the team wins and loses together, and so I'm not here to cause any difficulty in that regard. But I do have to say, I think for 3 quarters, the defense was damn good. And you're playing, obviously, probably the best offense in football. You're playing them there. And I thought you guys did a pretty good job, obviously, taking the ball away, taking some things away from them. Nothing was as easy as it usually is for them, right? One of their 4th down plays, they had a guy break wide open, but the ball gets tipped at the line of scrimmage. So I would, and eventually they got theirs, because that's probably what they're going to do, as good as they are. But how did you feel about the defensive performance, at least through 3 quarters?
For a while, we felt really good. Like you said, we took the ball away twice, set the offense up in good position with IP getting that interception and Harry getting his interception also. So we got the momentum back for our team. And really, we made the whole game, it felt like we challenged them to where, they're a high-powered offense. They're used to scoring a lot of points, and they do. And obviously, at the end of the game, they put up a good amount of points. But for the most part of the game, we felt like we were playing well, but we have to play 60 minutes. That's nothing matters unless we play a full and complete game. And on defense, we didn't do enough to help the team win, and we let Gibbs get 4 touchdowns. We really just didn't do our job for the entire course of the whole game. We did a lot of good things. We felt success. We showed that, okay, we can stop these guys consistently and hold them to not too many points. But the fact that we let it slip in the 4th quarter, and when it mattered, that was the biggest disappointment on defense. Just player to player looking at each other like we need to really fix every little thing that we did to let them score these points in the late part of the game.
Do you allow yourself to think how it might have been different if Van Ginkel is able to hold on to that ball?
Obviously, we know it'd be different. We'd probably go down and get the 2-point conversion and be able to tie the game up there and just the momentum of it. But we're not thinking about that or putting any type of what-if scenario out there, because that was still a good play. And obviously we expect Gink to make those plays, because we've seen him take 2 of those to the house already. But just him simply knocking that ball down is a good play in itself. So we just have to know that regardless, we have to do our job better and not even leave it to the what-ifs.
What is it, generally speaking, about their offense that is so challenging?
I think just that they're a complete team. I think the fact that they have really a good O-line starts there, and then you start with the run game with Gibbs and Montgomery when he's healthy. So that starts everything for an offense. It makes everybody have to play their job perfectly, because if you bite too much on the run, then they can get those intermediate breaks behind in the pass game. And they really have a complete team as far as at every level they have capable players. So you have to play a complete game of defense when you play against a team like that has so many good players and a team that plays together also.
You mentioned Gibbs. It looked like he got you once. He gets a lot of people, man. The guy, I can't imagine there's a more dangerous weapon at this point in the league. What do you think when you're up against him?
Yeah, he's for sure top two. Him and Saquon, I would say, are the two best running backs in the league. And I just think that he's a weapon. So if any of us doesn't do our job, he's capable of breaking it for a big chunk of yards or scoring. So going against a player like him, and especially with the offensive line that he has, we really have to just be disciplined. And from the front to even to the secondary, us and our run gaps and our run fits, our angles approaching when you're trying to tackle him from the deep part of the field, if something breaks down up front, you have to be able to save the day. And that's where a player like him makes it tough on people because he's able to outrun angles. He's able to really play well in space, and he's not just a downhill back. He can get around edges, and he can really do it all. So that's just going even more to say that we have to play a complete game of defense against a team like that.
Would you like it? Would you like to get another shot at that team?
Oh, 100%. But not to look forward or past anything, because obviously we have to win a game. But as a competitor, I want to play them 20 more times just so we can beat them. I want to be able to get our payback, but more than anything, I just want to focus on this 1 week so we can be able to even get to that point. But as of now, we're not even. We cleaned it up today, watched the film as a defense, fixed every mistake, went through the entire game. Flo corrected everything that we did, each person. So now we've swept this game under the rug, and now we're moved on directly to LA now.
Is Flo's approach a day like this? Is it more analytical? Is he rough? Is he tough? I mean, what was his approach today? You mentioned going through everybody.
It's everything. Yeah, it's everything. He's tough on us because of our standard in which we need, and he's correcting every mistake and being firm about it, which is good for everybody because we know that he's correcting the stars on the team, the best players, and he's also correcting the young guys the exact same way. So I think that's the fact that he's consistent with that and not, only correcting certain things. He's correcting every little detail down to a step, down to somebody's depth on their alignment, down to every little thing because we're not going to let anything go past us now and let it compound later on. So every little mistake, he was firm about it, but also letting us realize that, okay, we can stop this team. We can play with anybody in the league if we do our job. And we showed it for a good majority of the game, but like we both talked about already, we didn't finish the game.
Cam Bynum is our guest on the Fan. The Rams are obviously next. You played them there, and they ended up, I think, scoring 30 as well. What do you remember from that game, and how different do you think are the challenges that the Rams offense offers you compared to what the Lions offense offers?
That game was a while ago, so it's hard to think about back at the tiny details of it, but I just know that was one of those games where it was a short week, so the preparation was different than normal, and I think we let it was pretty simple. We let the fundamentals slip a little more off of a short week and just let little small things pass. There wasn't too many huge plays that happened in that game, but it was just little by little they were able to make plays, and we missed a lot of plays and let a lot of plays stay out there on the field. So from what I remember from that game, it was just us playing a clean game on defense, and it wasn't very clean. Veteran quarterbacks pose challenges, right? I mean, that's the veteran, good, accomplished quarterbacks. Goff has become that. He's become an experienced guy who has been, has improved at his craft. I feel like almost every year. And Stafford is another one of those guys, right? That is good at what he does. He's done it forever. He's one of those guys, I think, he's probably seen everything under the sun. So how does that change things for you guys? Yeah, just knowing you're going against an experienced quarterback, especially somebody that's seen it all, has played many years, over a decade in the NFL. All the tricks and everything isn't probably going to get him, so it's more of the simple things like we talk about all the time, the fundamentals, the technique, and winning your matchup to where the quarterback, regardless how well the quarterback can throw the ball or how well he can read, if you're covering your man, if you're in your run gap, if you're doing everything that you need to do, no matter what his experience is, it can't beat you because you're doing your job. And I think that's really the focus going against quarterbacks like these that have seen everything. You're not going to dial up a bunch of crazy blitzes that'll beat them mentally. You just have to physically beat them and beat them with your technique and fundamentals to be able to make it tough on him getting the ball to other people.
People talk all the time individually about quarterbacks having to have amnesia, that if they make a bad throw, they can't wallow in it because then they're defeated, right? Mm-hmm. It's how you recover from it. Collectively, do you feel the same way? I mean, there's that balancing act between, well, we can't, bury our heads in the sand. If there are things that we're not doing right, we got to improve upon them. We got to acknowledge them and move on. And on the other hand, you hear then coaches say, but we got to just clean the slate. We can't wallow in it or else it's going to defeat us a second time. How do you feel about that collectively regarding the players and you individually?
Yeah, I think that's one of the greatest things you can do as an athlete, or greatest, if you want to call it a talent, but being able to wipe off a good or a bad performance and move on. Those are the two biggest enemies of any athlete that's trying to continue to get better. Is if you have a good game, being able to wipe it and do your same process that led you to your good game. But also, even the more challenging part is when you have a bad game, trying to move on from that and not stay down the dumps about it or stay with your confidence low. Really, our ability to wipe off this past loss and understand that, okay, yes, we could have had a good thing out of the win, but at the end of the day, we're in the playoffs, and that doesn't matter at all. It's only what's ahead of us that matters. So I think as a team, we were able to do that well when we lost the 2 games earlier in the season to move on and start our streak back up. But even now, moving forward, I think just the energy in the locker room today and just seeing everybody after we had that last team meeting and where we corrected all the mistakes and KO talked to us and said, okay, we corrected everything. We're good. Now let's completely move on. So it was like you could feel the energy shift in the room. Like, okay, now this dark cloud is off of us. Now it's officially playoff time. Let's go win a game. And I feel like that's the biggest thing that we can do as a team is move on from this one. And I think we're going to do a really good job doing that.
Good luck on Monday night in Los Angeles. We will talk afterwards. Thanks as always, sir.
Sounds good. Thank you. Cam
Bynum, Vikings safety, helping us out today. Often it's been after victories. First time it's been a loss in forever, obviously. It's the longest winning streak the Vikings have had since, I believe, the 1975 season.
Wild Wednesdays are sponsored by Jim Beam, the official bourbon of the Minnesota Wild, and they're here all season long. You can listen every Wednesday through March for your chance to win tickets. Final segment of the show tonight, the show wrap, brought to you as always by American Pressure, commercial-grade pressure washer since 1975.
It's the bumper-to-bumper show wrap.
Little early again on the out time today to get Vikings Rewind in ahead of Minnesota Timberwolves basketball. Johnny Athletic was in studio with us beginning at about 3:30 today. He will be, he's already, I'm sure, at Target Center. The Wolves are taking on the Clippers, so the game will be on the Juggernaut, the FM 100.3 Juggernaut, as well as the Timberwolves channel. So that's why we're out about 15, 20 minutes early.
Bad week for the attendance takers in the bumper-to-bumper audience. They're going to be busy this week.
Yeah, they take it very seriously.
We're out tomorrow at 6:10, 6:15 because of the Wild game.
All right.
We're out Thursday at like 5:45 because of Vikings programming, and then I think another Wild game. And Friday night, we're out at 6 because of Gopher basketball against Wisconsin on the road.
Not to mention next Monday, a week from tonight, we're out early because it's Monday night playoff football.
That's exactly right. 5 o'clock, 5:30, something like that.
I guess we're living good. Let's try to get to a couple of more Vikings talking points in a busy day, obviously. I call this one, wait, what? You win the turnover battle 2-0, and you get routed?
7th first down for the Lions. They lead the NFL most first downs per game at 24. Play action for Goff on first down from under center. Very deep drop. Intercepted! It got picked off as he threw it to the right, and it's intercepted by Ivan Pace Jr., and he's taken down at the 6-yard line. Ivan Pace Jr. with a scoop and score week 7. He just picked off Jared Goff, and he's trying to own the D. 1st and 10 from his own 2-yard line. Goff takes the snap, play action. Metellus blitzes, is picked up. Goff with a deep shot to absolutely nobody except Harrison Smith. And Harrison Smith picked off an awful Jared Goff pass. And for Harrison Smith, that is his 37th interception of his career. And just like that, the Vikings have turned over the Detroit Lions.
Felt like a punt, almost, right? I don't think he intended it to be that way, but we all talked about it going to the game. Robert Smith, even on Sunday, said, well, it's boring, but it's probably going to come down to takeaways, and usually our record, like most teams, is impeccable when we have the takeover or the turnover advantage.
When KOC wins it, and it's basically undefeated.
It didn't do us all that much good, did it? The final was it 31-9?
Yes.
You know, and I'm reminded, even in the game here, as much as we love our offense, how many points did we score in the game we lost the Lions here? Was it 28?
Yeah,
and one of those was, remember, it was a scoop and score. So our offense, we loved, it's been very good at times this year, but against the Lions, it has not been at all dominant, home or road.
And they could have won the game, if you recall, this was a talking point, if they got one more first down.
One more first down.
And they were not able to do it, and the Lions went right down the field and scored.
I'm trying to look at and by the way, on that interception, we had pretty good field position, right? Because it wasn't like to the 50, hitman. Mm-hmm. We started there at the 50. I felt like we had other, look, after the Lions go backwards, 3 plays, 21 yards in the wrong direction, we take over on that occasion. This is earlier in the game at the 50. We had a couple times we had great field position when we were inside the 10 and couldn't score.
Yep.
But throughout the game, I think that was another sneaky issue where we were getting the ball in better position actually than they were.
Big time.
And
we had a great punt that flipped the field.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Where we punted from the goal line and great coverage, tackled them at like the 30.
And it still didn't do us all that much good. One more talking point in our final minutes here, if I can find it. I call this simply, who the hell is Amik Robertson?
7th first down for the Lions. They lead the NFL most first downs per game.
Wrong one. I'm sorry.
Aaron Jones, 3 runs, 16 yards. Sam Darnold, 5 of 8, 40 yards. Been a little shaky on some of those throws. Excellent field position. The Vikings have to capitalize against this Lions team. 1st and 10 from the Lions 36. Darnold shotgun. 2 receivers right. They're going to run a screen far side of the field. Caught by Addison and stopped post haste at the line of scrimmage. In fact, it might even be a loss of one. That's Amik Robertson, fifth year from Louisiana Tech. He blew up Addison, 2nd and 10.
Yeah, JJ's got to get a better block on that. They were blitzing on that play, playing man-to-man, and JJ just whiffed on the block, which allowed the tackle for loss.
A matchup that everybody's been watching tonight. Amik Robertson and Justin Jefferson. They played against each other in high school. 15 matchups, 5 targets, just 2 receptions, and 10 of those in man coverage. If you would have told Aaron Glenn, Dan Campbell that was going to be the result of that matchup before the game, they would have been thrilled out of their mind.
Defense, 5 total tackles. All right. 1 pass defended, only gave 18, had 3 catches. Mr. Amik Robertson.
I mean it from the bottom of my heart, man. I appreciate y'all, man, because y'all gave me a chance to showcase what I could do when they tried to bury me, dog. But they can't bury what comes from the dirt. Hey, let's get that big one, man. Let's keep on working, man. I love y'all. Appreciate y'all.
Football's a funny game, man. It's why you could say that's what makes it so interesting. The possibility, and I'm not sitting here saying that Amik Robertson shut down on his own, JJ. To a certain extent, Darnold did that, obviously, with one throw that was awful.
Yeah.
And a couple of others. But he's kind of a journeyman defensive back. I think they brought him in this year basically to be a nickel guy. And as I understand it, before the game, he was told, you're sticking with 18. And he was feisty, man. He was...
Yeah, he was in the way.
In his grill, he got in the way. He was handsy. You could say he cheated. But look, that's part of what you do. If you're a skillful defensive back, is going to be physical, right? And I think we've seen before that that's something that seems to bother JJ. Now, in this case, I didn't know they had any history, but the history goes all the way back to high school.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
And then what college did he play at? Was it Louisiana Tech?
I think that's what they said, yeah.
And so it is remarkable how these stories evolve. And two guys who obviously knew each other well. Apparently, after the game, Robertson was bitter because he wanted, I guess, to shake hands with JJ and claim that JJ just walked off. Now, I don't even know if that's true. Have no idea. But to the victor goes the spoils.
Yep.
And it's an improbable world in which we live when you say, well, who was the shutdown corner? Who was the guy who, had the assignment? Who didn't get killed by JJ? Amik Robertson. A name that I probably couldn't have said. I'm not sure that you could have either.
I could not have, no.
And as I mentioned, I think he came into the league 3 or 4 years ago. You heard the quote from him. You can't get buried from the dirt or in the dirt.
You can't bury someone that came from the bleeping dirt.
That came from the dirt.
Yeah.
That's the classic guy who says, nobody believed in me.
Yeah, I like that.
And it's hard to argue with it. And that plays perfectly with the head coach, right? I mean, it's. I'm sure they grab onto that and they gravitate towards it, and they love making a big deal of that as well. So I have no idea. Like, I don't remember. I don't think the Rams have much of a pass rusher, do they? Do we know? Do you remember? Do you know the Rams pass rush situation?
I don't.
I think their offensive line is good at protecting QBs. That's been true. I don't know. Like I said, teams do like to copy, but they have to be capable of doing. They have to be smart enough. Well, can we do some of the same things that the Lions will do? And some of it's guts, right? Some of it is courage of. They blitzed. They zero blitzed how many times? So in a zero blitz, as I understand it, means everybody's coming except for the man-to-man defenders on the receivers, right?
Much,
everybody.
Yeah.
So it's those defenders are literally on an island, and everybody else. That could be 7 other guys, that could be 8 other guys, whatever the number is. That ends up, being what a zero blitz is all about. And
there's nobody deep.
And there's nobody deep. Yep. Yeah, if you get if you break something, and that's the tease, I'm sure, for the head coach, where he goes, we hit on one of these. It's going to be unbelievable. But if you continually are unable to hit on them, and at some point you have to, I think, go to a plan B, which I don't think we ever really did in any meaningful way. Maybe it wouldn't have mattered. I don't know, because of how inaccurate Darnold was. I'm not sure. I would assume that that's what's interesting. Like, we're such a creatures, prisoners of the moment, that there were a couple people like before this game saying, well, it's going to cost you like $45 million a year for 4 years on Darnold. Is that number go down now and then maybe go back up?
That was the easy joke last night. Yeah, that the Vikings, the price went down, the trade market went down, the price on KOC went down if you were going to trade for him or if you were going to extend him.
Yeah.
I think it's a little reactionary, but it is the NFL and it is the world that we live in.
It is, yeah.
I think everybody needs a day or two to kind of decompress and move on. Because there was so much at stake yesterday. It's such a buzzkill to lose that game.
It is.
How they did.
How they lost it is the buzzkill. And I think Johnny thought the opposite. He thought it might be easier to bury this way. I don't. I think a close game hurts more, you could say, in some ways. But I think a close game says, we're right there with them. We've played them twice, and we've been right with them twice. And when you get, defeated the way the Vikings were defeated, with the offense all but not existing in any meaningful way, the thing that's been your calling card, red zone, attacking, scoring touchdowns, the whole bit, and you can get, you almost are historic in your inability to do anything, even inside the 5-yard line, for God's sake. I don't know how you come out of that with more confidence. Now, you have extra time to do what Cam Bynum talked about. And in their position, that's kind of what they have to do. That is, can't deny the mistakes we made. We'll go through all that, but then get it out of there. Because it's going to, if it festers, It's not going to help you for the next game. Clear it. Remember how many games we've won this season.
Yep.
We've lost 3. We won 14. We're a good team. We have proof that we're a good team. I can show you tapes of the number of games in which we've done the right thing offensively and defensively. And you have the extra day also to kind of clear your head in that regard. And like I said, I'm not going to sit here and say at all, I don't know who I'm going to pick for this game. I'm not going to be stunned at all if the Vikings win.
Right.
So, and then who knows at that point? You go, okay, you get a little confidence back and you go, all right, we're okay. I mean, we got a long way to go, but we're okay, depending on where you have to go next. But we'll have to go, we're assuming, unless there's a bunch of upsets. I don't think we can avoid going on the road the second week, can we? I guess I'd have to figure out the
every
math
wild card team would have to lose. Or I'm sorry, every wild card team would have to win.
Yeah, that might be it.
Yeah. 'Cause I did see that somewhere. That there is a way where they could theoretically host a game.
Well, what's interesting is the Rams did, have an opportunity to play for their seeding a little bit, move one spot. And ultimately, their head coach, I think, said, and I don't know if he was looking at who the matchups might be or was more, I'm resting people, right? I'm going to let my quarterback, my old quarterback, relax. He just decided to go at it that. And as it was, they almost won the game. Your guy, Jimmy G.
Yeah.
Did you know? I didn't realize he was the backup there. Did you?
I'd be lying if I said, oh, yeah. I knew he was somewhere. I didn't know it was there.
Jimmy G is there, and he was driving the team late. And I think they had turned it over on downs. They had a play in the end zone that was incomplete. They were playing Seattle, and they might have won the game. But like I've said at the start of this show, I didn't think losing to Detroit in Detroit was going to be a sin at all. And I expected the Vikings to lose the game, but not because I thought it was going to be anything the way it played, like how it played out. And to me, that does make it harder to just pretend you can slide past it very easily and go, just bad timing is one of those things. You could say, given the winning streak, you were due. The way football works, even if you're a good team. So to that extent, it doesn't have to be the end of the world. But the way they lost, the ineptitude in the red zone, the decision-making, I think, throughout the game, not to mention, as we said, the accuracy of the quarterback that has been superb through most of this season, I think it's hard. I can't blame any Vikings fans for feeling a little bit more squeamish. The best thing, maybe, as we said earlier, is you can go back to nobody expects anything of us again, because a lot of people going into that game picked the Vikings. I predicted that would be the case, and it was. I think because logically, you heard it. Collinsworth is not vicious, but his partner tried hard to play the consolation card for the Vikings, to do the old, you know what?
It's not over for them.
Not over for them. They got a great season. They're still in a good position in the playoffs. And it was Collinsworth who basically said, this was your chance, man. This was your chance. I think he was in the group that said the Lions are vulnerable right now.
They were.
And they were. They had to be on the basis of the number of people that they lost. And the Vikings did not even come close to doing anything about it. So,
well, you have to move on from, because I'm sure they're all feeling we let a million opportunities in the first half pass us by in a massive game, right?
Correct.
Dan Orlovsky put out a video today where he said Darnold missed 5 touchdowns. Let's just say he's half right. It's 2.5. That's
enough,
especially in the first half.
Yeah.
When your defense is playing so great, and you feel like there were so many opportunities there. That, I think, is the biggest psychological hurdle to get over. We talked about this when they lost to the Saints in the championship game. When you feel like you had a lot to do with the reason that you lost, that it wasn't just the other team that you were playing. When you have guys breaking wide open, when you have a defense that's desperate and trying some stuff, when you get a couple of turnovers, but you're not able to punch it in and make the other team pay. And also, there's a million sneaky opportunities in there as well that we haven't even talked about. We've talked about Van Ginkel, but I think it was the play before the Gibbs touchdown. You had an opportunity to get him off the field on 4th down. There was a couple other opportunities that you had where I think KOC said it, and I agree with him on this. It felt like they were always a play away from actually getting into the game, and they just never made the play, or they never made the right decision. Or if a play presented itself, they didn't make it, and then the next play, Detroit did something that further daggered you. That's what it felt like all night. And I think those are harder to live with.
Very much so.
That they have to move past from and say, because the season's not waiting now.
And some of this is about quality of performance, because as you alluded to earlier, when we came, I don't know if it was zero blitz or not, but when we came after and had defensive players, Metellus included, coming right at the QB untouched, he knew exactly where to go. And he made it. It's not an easy throw, but he made it. But it was quick.
Yep.
It was not a long developing play, and that's what the best quarterbacks do. But I would also say that's what the best systems do.
Coaches,
that no matter what, we want to get the ball downfield. Too bad if on that play that's the only play that can be made. Give the quarterback a place that he can go with the ball. Now, maybe some of this has to do with what Darnold reads and what Darnold does with protection. That may be part of it as well. I don't know, but all of it, I think, as you say, enters into it. And I'm as curious as anybody to see how they respond. Because, again, the good news is they're not playing a great team. The Rams have been very inconsistent this year. They've been dangerous, and the tough part is the Vikings probably saw them at their best, right? I mean, they had a really good game against us, a really good game plan against us. They scored 30 against us. I don't think... I know we like our offense, but I don't think we want to, I think we got to get past the idea of shooting it out with anybody, and you're back on the road. Now, I don't think it's quite as jungle-like at SoFi.
It's not.
As it is in Detroit.
There should be the Wills aren't going to have to pay $2 million to get tickets.
Are they going to do that again?
I don't know.
Or do they feel burned after the first time?
Probably a little bit burned.
I'm not sure. That was, I'm still curious. I'm going to try to see if I can find anything from the Detroit papers, any kind of comments from, any little asides. Oh, okay. You want to bring all those extra people? Mm-hmm. How's that feel now?
You want the last kick-ass
let's do
offense,
Might
by
as
the
well.
way?
Let's do it.
I forgot to play this one after Bynum.
And now, famous moments in a
kick-ass red zone
offense. Jones to the left of Darnold out of the shotgun. Lions come with a massive blitz. Sam, back right of the end zone. Incomplete.
I can't believe this.
He overshot Jefferson. He overthrew Justin Jefferson back right of the end zone, and JJ was wide open. Well, this has to stop. This is ridiculous.
Well, that's unbelievable. You're absolutely right. JJ was wide open.
Join us again for another famous moment in a
kick-ass red zone offense.
Well, that conveys it right there, does it not?
That one hurt the most.
It did.
Where JJ just toasted whoever it was. It was the guy we just talked about. I mean, that was a walk-in.
That was that was to the sort of the right corner, correct?
Yep.
And it wasn't even close. It was not even. There was there's no circus play that he could have made on that occasion. Tomorrow we expect Kevin Seifert in studio. We've got Luigi tomorrow. Vikings Rewind is going to follow us this evening. And then it's Timberwolves basketball. They're back in action at home against the Clippers. I'm hoping that win or lose after the game, that the first question that Chris Finch receives is, are you considering changes to the starting lineup? Because he's become a little bit sensitized to that question, even though, quite frankly, it's a fair one. Let's just see if the Wolves can get anything going tonight. Clippers have not played badly. I think Johnny mentioned their record is 19-14. This year, and I thought Kawhi played last game a few minutes.
I think I'm
assuming
back.
He's on load management, so he's probably off again tonight, right?
On a Monday night mini.
Enjoy the rest of your Monday. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 3 o'clock.